Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining today's AI adoption forum. Today's session is called Stop Fighting Your CRM, Fix the Revenue Leaks in Your Mortgage Workflow. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce the AI adoption forum. For those who are joining us for the first time, the AI adoption forum is a practical peer learning community for business owners and operators who want to understand how AI is being used in real business settings. Members share lessons, examples, challenges, and ideas so they can make better decisions about where AI fits into their operations, teams, and customer experience. So today we're going to focus on practical CRM automation and AI lessons for mortgage brokers. The goal is to look at where leads, deals, follow-up, and how a better workflow can help the team act sooner. This will be a practical, no AI hype, no generic CRM software discussion. We'll focus on common pitfalls, what to fix, and how to make the system more useful for the team. So today I'm happy to introduce James Rowe, President of Future Flow Operations, my partner as well. James helps teams clean up workflow CRM design, reporting automation, and practical AI. A lot of our work with mortgage brokers focuses on getting more value from your CRM. Anyway, James, over to you.
All right, thank you, Riv. All right, so today's session, we're really going to focus on, how do you get the most out of your CRM? So for too many people, your CRM, it's intended to help you grow. It's intended to help build your pipeline and bring leads to you while you're doing other things. But too often, it's slowing your team down. There's too much friction and bottlenecks. So your leads, they're coming in from your websites, referrals, booking tools, and email, other places. The problem is if you don't have a good intake, you're going to end up with your data getting scattered and not being centralized into your system. And so that's where the leaks in terms of your revenue operations really start. You're in a situation where a client comes in and then the handoff starts to break down and you're not getting clean passing into your team to be able to manage the customer journey as they move into the in-process mortgage renewals. So what we're going to talk about today is how to clean up that workflow and make sure that your CRM system, whether using Jungo or another CRM type system, could be Salesforce, or there's lots of them out there. We're going to talk at a bit of a higher level, but we'll also, for a bunch of you, if you're using Jungo, we can talk specifics there as well. But the main goal here is we want to make sure that we have a clean client workflow from first inquiry all the way through the life cycle to the renewal stage. So today we're going to focus on four things. We're going to talk about some CRM pitfalls to avoid, how to avoid those pitfalls, but also create better workflow design. And then once that workflow is in place, building on top of that, where you're putting in your automations that support the team activities, and then how AI can then extend that even to get the flywheel moving even faster. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to dig into the CRM. First thing we're going to do is talk about the AI hype. So I'm sure you're here because you're like, hey, how does AI fit into my operations? Everyone's talking about it. There's lots of discussion about how AI can personalize things and make it much more specific to your clients. A lot of this, unfortunately, is hype without the right parts of your business being in place. So the things that sound great that we all want to have is more personalized outreach, better engaging campaigns to do that, faster follow-up, your system's working for you 24/7 so you can do those lead follow-up and stuff, and ultimately leading to more booked calls, more work, more deals flowing through your pipeline. The reality, though, is that you need good data in place because that's what's going to give you that personalized outreach. You need good process to make sure that you're collecting that data reliably and consistently. And you need a human in the loop to make sure that you're getting good quality assurance, that data is correct and you're not scaling bad data and actually harming that personalized outreach. And then these build on top of trusted templates that you probably are already using in your business in terms of your emails. And then also making sure that the information you're personalizing is to the user's situation things, but the facts of the situation, the type of if you're doing a renewal, the type of mortgage they have already, their current rate, and that type of thing. You want to have those facts locked down. You don't want AI making these things up. So at the end of the day, bad data becomes bad outreach. So what AI will do is it will just help you send it faster. And so that is ultimately bad. We don't want to erode trust with clients by having a system that's scaling bad data. The other piece in here is about how quickly follow-up happens with clients, and being aware of where there's the right touch points to make sure that your leads are getting managed appropriately. So revenue slowly leaks out as your leads are moving from their initial interest. If you can catch them right, early on when they're engaging with you, that's going to have the best chance of conversion. But as those leads age, they have things that they're trying to accomplish. If there's no one following up with them and your system's not helping to support that follow-up and reminders to your team, you're leaking revenue. It's going to drop out. The customer doesn't know what the next step is. If it's unclear, they're going to drop. If the follow-up was too late and they needed to move, they're going to drop. And if your CRM's not supporting you with notices, then they're going to drop. So we're going to talk about some of these pitfalls here. So let's start with the most basic one. And this is where, as your leads come in, treating them all the same. So not every lead is going to belong in your pipeline. So you're going to want to segment between your leads that are marketing qualified. And for those who are using Jungo, this is a contact that you're creating in the system. And then you can add those contacts into your drip campaigns. So these are clients that are at the stage where they need nurture. They're not ready to immediately go into a sales call. They might not be qualified, but they've got questions. They're wanting to educate themselves about the system, about the process and how this all works. So this is where you can set up a bunch of drip campaigns and then capture those leads as contacts in your CRM and then connect them with the right drip campaign. This is very, basic CRM setup, and the primary goal with your CRM is in that marketing qualified lead. Now, moving further along, then you get into your sales ready leads. And these leads now are ready to be added to your pipeline to be able to watch that and convert it as a deal. So in the Jungo world, these are referred to as loans, or we were working with Rebecca. We've renamed them as mortgages because Jungo is very US centric. So we've made some customizations there. So this is where you want to create your mortgage card and start to collect the details about your lead. I'll talk a little bit more about how we've helped set that up in a couple of minutes. And then the next step, as you're moving that mortgage through the deal pipeline, the first step is in that sales call, you're going to end up with a bunch of qualification questions to determine if the client's ready to actually go into application for your mortgage. And so sometimes they'll be, and you'll just move your card along to the next stage and capture the rate details, but they may also not be. And that's where you'd move them back into the nurture stage, and you'll move them back to step one. Making sure you've got good qualification questions in your sales call, and then having a process around how do you promote or demote your lead at that stage and clean up any loans that are not ready to move forward. Those are part of the process that we've been helping our clients with. So this is an important part, so you don't end up with this kind of a situation. Whoops, not that one. We've talked about this already, so how to get your sales ready lead rule. But the next pitfall is pipeline clutter. So this is where you've got a qualified lead, or sorry, a sales call that's come in, and they're not qualified, or they didn't follow through with their sales call. So then what can happen is if your CRM is set up in a way where every time you get a call, it's creating a new deal in your mortgage pipeline, you're going to end up with a bunch of clutter. So you're going to have all these weak deals in your pipeline, and it clutters up the space, so you can't actually see where the high value and high priority leads are. And so, for people who are asking general questions, or they don't actually come to the call, or they're not ready, these can, if your CRM is automating these as a created mortgage in your deal pipeline, it just creates clutter. And so what we do with clients is we automate pulling in that first stage of the deal. So for example, with Rebecca, we've built a Calendly intake for first call. And so it creates a new contact and it creates a new mortgage card. And then if the client comes in and is fully qualified, that mortgage card moves to stage 2. But if they're not, then we have a cleanup report that allows you to go through and find all the stale first stage deals and clean them up. And as we're building on this, we'll be able to automate that, so there's an automated cleanup when the deals don't progress into the next stage after a certain amount of time. So this helps you to keep your pipeline clean and avoid the situation where you're dealing with a lot of just noisy content that's not adding value. Another common problem that comes in with when you're automating lead intake is that you end up with duplicate contacts. So this can happen because people use multiple email addresses. Sometimes it comes in where the team is manually creating contacts and they didn't check to make sure that the contact didn't already exist. The problem with this is that you end up with a split in the relationship. You can't track the history. If you've got a client that already has a mortgage with you and they come back at renewal time, and they've created a new contact with that renewal, now all of a sudden you've split your history with them. And so you end up with a fragmented view of this customer, and that impacts your ability to personalize and serve them well because you don't have one consistent history. So as part of the work we do with clients is we make sure that we've got a process that helps to regularly go through and reduce duplicates and merge things together if they accidentally get created. And so we create reports that allow for that to be found when it occurs, and then have it so that there's a single source of truth for the clients. As well, this is an important part when you're working with your underwriting team and anyone else who's working in your business. Consistency of recording this information and having a standard way that things are done really helps to reduce the amount of fragmentation here. So ultimately what that leads to is you have a better way to engage with clients throughout their life cycle. So you have one client relationship, but you have many opportunities over time as you're working through their renewals and refinancing situations in the future. Oops. So an example of this kind of clean intake that we're talking about. So this is what we were implementing with Rebecca is we've set up a Calendly intake for different types of calls. And depending on what stage a lead is coming in at, if it's a general type of question, there's a booking event in Calendly that allows for them to have the contact created so they can be tracked at the marketing stage. And then there's a strategy call type event that is when a customer is actually ready to start to progress into making their application. So those are distinguished between a standard call just creates a contact for marketing tracking, whereas the strategy call creates the contact and the mortgage deal and adds it to the deal pipeline so that we can track it. And then all the history notes in both cases get added into and tracked with those clients as part of their activity. And that can be call notes, emails, and the Calendly event details as well. In the future, we're also going to have it where transcripts of the calls can be captured. So curious, is anyone here using AI transcription for either their voice phone calls or if they do Zoom calls or other video calls? Do you use the transcripts to capture them?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, great. And do you make sure that those are captured back into the activity with your clients?
We have a way of saving it to the client folder. Like I send it off to one of my staff, and they will put it into their folder. And yes, so I would guess the answer is yes.
Okay, yeah. So there's also integrations with most CRMs that you can actually add it as like an activity and capture it there like a call log in the same way.
Cool.
So then you've got that history in there as well. So this is a really valuable source of information that can be used for populating fields in your CRM, whether it's in the contact details or mortgage details, and also can be used for personalizing follow-up emails and stuff as well. So it's a great source of information, but it needs to be processed and properly structured to put it into the right places in the CRM contacts. But if for those of you who aren't currently recording your calls and getting a transcript, this is a missed opportunity. This information is super valuable, and it allows you to do all sorts of valuable things in the future. And in most cases, it's fairly easy to add into your workflow. So if you use tools like Ring Central, I think it's called, where you're doing automated calls, or if you're using any kind of video call tools, those all can capture transcripts really easily.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So I use Fixer, which does with my Zoom calls, but I'm actually just on order. I have Plod coming because I'm finding I'm back and forth like a lot of phone calls, and sometimes Fixer doesn't join the meeting, so then I can use Plod. Have you integrated Plod or Fixer into Salesforce so that it's automatic, or because it's a process where I have to then stick it over there?
Yeah, we've done it not with a mortgage broker workflow, but we've done this with other clients where we are capturing the transcript notes and then adding that to the contact details for this. So we've done this with a client that's in HubSpot, and but like all the CRMs work generally the same way. So as long as you've got the document, you're just attaching it to the contact details to track the history.
Yeah, but not manually is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
Right.
so the workflow, like for example, in Django, Salesforce, you can use Zapier. There's other integration tools that allow you to have that workflow pulled together and then attach it through their integration. Yeah. Yeah, and so in terms of this pipeline here, so we start with a booked call, create that automated contact. We also have a broker assigned. This isn't automatic, but the broker can be assigned if the broker is automatic. There's an underwriter that can be assigned a little bit later in the stage. Sorry, I'm getting my terms mixed up. Contacts created, brokers assigned, a deal's created, and then we'd start tracking the pipeline. Once a contact is qualified and their deal is qualified, then an underwriter is assigned to help manage the application. And so we're tracking that as well. As a contact, we have a set of underwriters who are contacts in Django, and they just get attached to the deal. And then we have reports that allow us to see what kind of workload is assigned to the different underwriters to manage workload balance. And speaking of pipeline, the next pitfall is around how to move deals down through the pipeline. So most CRMs have a Kanban board or easy way to move your deals along. And because it's so easy, it's very tempting to just grab your card and move it to the next stage. But without the discipline to also go in and fill in the details in your mortgage deal, you're going to end up losing that information that then means that you don't have the client details you need for those later stages. So with a tool like Django, because it can track all of your in-process mortgage life cycle and trigger transactional emails that keep your clients up to date on what's happening, this is an important piece to make sure that you've got your gating between your stages of the deals and capturing all the information that's needed before you allow the deal to move to the next stage. So we put business logic in place to make sure that those fields are filled in properly before it allows the team to move the deal to the next stage. One of the other things that's really important around moving along through your stages is that having this discipline also allows you to have easy compliance later, because it's all captured in a single location. For those of you who's for blanking on the name of it, it's an LOS, loan operating system. I think that's like Velocity.
Velocity, yeah.
Yeah. So the Jungo has a sync add-on, so it will synchronize Jungo fields with the Velocity fields. So it reduces the amount of double entry of data. You don't have to translate it all manually. And for those who, like one of the challenges that Rebecca had is that not all the data in Velocity is like reliable data. Sometimes there's like testing different loans before one is decided. So there might be multiple loans entered there to explore. What Jungo allows with the LOS sync is you don't have to have all the data integrated automatically. So you can take any of the information that's in Jungo and push it down into Velocity. So it can copy all your contact and loan information that you've captured in your early calls and then pre-populate the Velocity forms. But you can also pull fields back from Velocity into Jungo. Is there anybody here who is using the LOS sync?
I tried it and I didn't like it.
Okay.
My Velocity is a mess though, so like that's why we use Jungo, because I just found Velocity was too messy. So we just all we do is you can link a field in Jungo, so we just put in the Velocity number so that you can just click on it and it'll pop you to the correct Velocity file, which is helpful because sometimes we'll have multiple ones for different clients or whatever. But we don't like data going from Velocity to Jungo. We're fine with the other way.
Yeah, so we've been working closely with Jungo about how that can be managed, and they have some automations where you can click the button and it copies all your Jungo data into Velocity, and they have a similar one to pull it back. These are two. They assume that the Velocity data is good. And I think, you know, the common complaint we're hearing is like, well, we use Velocity for exploring a lot of options. It's not a single source of truth. It's not reliable data that we can just pull back because it messes up our Jungo contexts and loans then. So we've been looking at how to be more selective about what data comes back and at the appropriate stages. So the good news is, like, with the LOS sync, there are ways to do it more selectively and only pull back like the approved Velocity information when you're ready to actually do that. So if you're interested in learning more, happy to talk about how that works. Okay. So in terms of like a better pattern than for managing the data capture along the way, and this is one of the most important pitfalls that we see people fall into, is at each of the stages of your pipeline, there are 5 questions that you need to be able to answer about the deal. So we need to know what changed, what information did we learn from the client as we've been working with them, what does the client need to do next, what does the team need to do next, and then what information should we save for later in the deal when we go back and look at this. So, you know, some of the important things that we've been capturing are, you know, what is the client's ultimate goal? What are they trying to do? You know, if you're working with a first-time home buyer, you know, there's going to be different kind of information than somebody who's buying their 3rd or 4th home. If you're working with an investor, there's different types of information. If you're dealing with somebody who's refinancing or renewing, you know, they're going to have specific information. So those goals are important to distinguish between different clients. The transaction type is obviously important, timeline, and then tracking things like your missing documents over time. So we make sure that there's a checklist to be able to go through and capture that. If you're testing with different lenders. How do we track that status? I mean, that's what a lot of the velocity is using, but then you have to go down into the velocity system to constantly look at like where that's at. Bringing that up to a Jungo report that you can look at as an operating system for your team is a nice way to kind of keep track of things. Similar with like upcoming funding dates, tracking tracking that at a reporting level across the company, across the organization, having an operating system view of all the loans that are coming up to funding, and then also for things like maturity, where are your loans that are 180 days out, or whatever time period you want to capture, so you can look at like when you should be doing outreach to those folks. So ultimately, this information is going to be what allows you to have the right kind of communication and contact with your clients. And this is what I was just saying. So this is where you can get the that CRM becomes your single source of truth. It provides the data foundation for everything else, whether that's personalization, your follow-up messages, your reporting, client touch points that might not be automated. They might be like, give them a phone call on their birthday or something, send them a gift, other types of touch points, and then other automation, so integrating with other tools and other systems to be able to do this. So the next pitfall is about stalled files. So, ideally, your CRM is warning you when things are sitting too long. Time kills all deals. The longer things stall and sit without follow-up, at the end of the day, that you'll lose that client. So we want to have a way to be able to go and surface those issues. And so when we're working with clients, we look at like from a customer journey perspective, as you're engaging with your clients, what is your ideal timeline for follow-up, and like what does that look like in terms of the process? So this is independent of the system. This is really like, how do you run your business and how do you ideally want to interact with your clients? And then we map that into the system to say, we need reports and warnings when those timelines are getting past what the ideal is. So this creates like a service level agreement, like time to response, to make sure that your team is following up on a timely way. And then of course, there's different ways that you might reach out to them. It could be automated emails as a easy first approach. But ultimately, brokering is a relationship-based business. Reaching out to a client that's high value, likely to close, you want to be able to go and give them a call and say, hey, notice this is stalled. What's going on? How can I help? So having good information that can give you that opportunity can help you to move those stalled files forward and warm up any kind of cold leads that have stalled. So here's a practical example of when a client's been asked to provide certain documentation and information. Typically, this is left up to your underwriters. They're going to be chasing people for their documentation and collecting this. Depending on how busy they are, that can slip. Everyone gets swamped at times, and this very much becomes a team capacity and memory problem. So how can we support this with systems that are going to help triage where the most important place to put effort is when things are busy? So we track the dates when things are sent. So if a request is sent, when that's marked, we put a tracking date on that. And then we create reports that basically give the aging report on what are the deals that are at these stages and which ones are at risk because they've passed our ideal timing. So whether it's a request sent, it could be for documentation, it could be waiting on the lender to do approvals. It might be things like any subjectivities that need to be dealt with, or anything else that can kind of go sideways in the deal. So this is a nice way to surface this information. All right, the next one is around automating before your workflow is proven. And so this one we see with our clients that are a little bit earlier in their business development. So their operational way of doing things hasn't fully matured. So this can be a place where it's like there isn't standard operating procedures for how to handle files. You know, we're seeing that we've worked with clients in other industries and other places that are kind of in this situation. So I have a background working with startup companies, and I've built several businesses myself where the operational process has to be designed and standardized. And the problem comes is if you try to automate this without having a proven standardized process, you're automating something that then all of a sudden there's all these exceptions and edge cases for it working differently. So let me try and come up with a good example here. Let's say that we try to standardize the way that we're collecting the information from a client about how they, you know what, I can't do this off the top of my head. I'm going to get myself in trouble. Yeah, I will just say that the standard way to create your process, you know what, I wonder if I have an example. I don't. Trying to think of a good example in the mortgage business that would be where some clients can come in and there's a standard way that you work with them, but there's so many exceptions that it's very hard to create like a standard operating procedure. Is there anyone, can anyone share an example that would be a good one to work with here?
I don't know if this is what you mean, but like so say about 50 files I do a year. So not the majority of my business come from other mortgage brokers as referrals. So 'cause I do a lot of what's called private financing. So we put them into Django, but we have to make sure that we're not contacting those people, like those clients, because it's not our client, right? We're getting this business from another broker. So we've put some kind of coding in, like just in how we name the file, and that's kind of my staff's cue that, hey, we don't put email addresses in here. We don't put there's certain things that we don't put in, certain other notes that we do have to put in because it's coming, like we have to add other fields because it's a different type of client. And then depending on what type of referral it is, so it doesn't fit our standard kind of like you're my regular customer type of thing.
Yeah, actually, Michael, this is a great example. So like in the early days when you were first taking these kind of referral deals, you know, there's a temptation. It's like, well, I've already got all of my standard way of working with my own clients in Django. Can't I just add an automation and add AI? Like, this is close enough. Let's just automate it all and have it go through the same way. We'll have it follow all the same processes. The problem is that it's not really, it doesn't fit together. There's differences in it that you can't standardize. And it's only after working through these for a while that you're saying, well, there's a different pattern to it. You work with them in a different way. We shouldn't add them as a contact and then add them to our like standard newsletter because they're not our client. We don't have permission to contact them that way. So this is where you can get into trouble if you try to standardize too early, or sorry, you try to automate too early before you have a standard way of working. Then, you know, you can imagine, well, we'll just always add a contact. We're going to automate having them added to our mailing lists, and all of a sudden you've started marketing to somebody, you know, that you referred business to you as if they're your client, and that's going to get you into a lot of trouble.
And this is where I'm probably behind everybody else because I do so little automation. Most of the automation is just automation as far as task generation goes. So I'm like one of those people that's so scared of sending, I know I shouldn't be, but sending the wrong thing to the wrong person. So a lot of it is just, we'll have like templated things that just, we get triggered to be like, hey, here's the templated email, send this out to the client. And then we're like, oh, you know, this one shouldn't get that or whatever. So it's a lot of, probably more manual than most people here, I would guess.
Yeah, well, Michael, I
No,
wouldn't say
I'm manual too, Michael, but yeah. I also feel like sometimes that's more personal because you add like
Yeah, like I always add
the
stuff too.
template's there. It's one click of a button, but then I add a personalized line at the front. I think clients can smell automation all day long, and if they want to do that, they're going to just do their mortgage online at Questrade or whatever the hell, like, you
Yeah,
know. So
I agree with you. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And when I talk about automation here, I don't necessarily mean automated emails. What I mean is that there's these workflows that before you automate the standardized stage, think of it as your standard operating procedure. It's your checklists and everything else that your team is doing manually. So it's basically the operating rules of how you run your business. If you don't have those in place first, if you try to automate, then you're automating something that hasn't been tested in like real operating situations that then may end up scaling something that doesn't work properly. So this is the example of like, if you just take a referral and you add them as a contact and a loan to manage, you might accidentally start marketing to them as if they're one of your clients. And so you got to do it manually first to make sure you've got all those guardrails and checks, because automating will just scale what's not, like whatever's there. It won't necessarily fix it. And so the AI then just adds another layer on top of that. Because what it's going to do is that you're cranking the wheel with automation, you're getting a lot more flow. So that's scaling what's hopefully already working. And then AI turns that into stuff that's more personalized. It's not trying to write boilerplate emails at scale. What it's doing is it's inserting all of the things that are relevant to the client. And it's not trying to impersonate, like, pretend I'm human. It's doing things like, let's figure out if when we send our templated email, what's their mortgage type? Is it fixed or variable? What's their current rate? What's their maturity date? Like all that information you have, it can be inserted properly with the right AI rules to be able to have that. So a client goes, oh, you actually know what's going on with my deal. You know, yes, you've sent me a templated email, but it's highly relevant to me, and you actually know what's going on. I don't need to come and tell you all the details because you already know. Okay. Sorry, that was a little rambly there. Thanks, Michael, for sharing your example. Okay, and Marcy, this is what you're talking about, this generic AI outreach at scale. So I'm sure all of you have gotten these terrible spammy emails that are coming in that say, hey, you know, I saw you on LinkedIn and, you know, I noticed you are mortgage brokers, and hey, do you want help with your email automation? And it's like, no, sorry, delete. It's easy to spot these emails, and they're super annoying. Sometimes they're over polished, but they're just very empty feeling. And in a business like brokering, the relationship is the thing that differentiates you. Is like you're there to help your clients figure this stuff out. So if you're sending them like messages that feel empty and just transactional, that relationship isn't being built, and you're actually eroding trust. So we want to make sure that we don't spam people with this kind of AI slop, because otherwise they're going to like unsubscribe from newsletters, or they're going to ignore your emails. So ultimately, we're trying to reinforce trust, not just scale stuff for the sake of it. So as I was mentioning, the better pattern here is about collecting the right information from your CRM that shows your client that you know what's going on in their world. You understand their current situation, what's coming up, and you're giving them helpful hints at the right time that are going to nudge them to say, hey, here, I'm here to help you. You know, let's schedule a call to figure this out. And what that really comes down to is, you know, for those of you who are been using your CRM for a while, hopefully you've got templates that have been working well for you and that you've already approved and tested with your clients. And now it's about like, how do you add that more personalized information into there? So that's where you can go and you can mine your CRM data and either use the mail merge fields and just pull different information into your templates. Or this is where those transcripts are really helpful. If you've got transcripts from previous calls, you can refer to them and get that information out to find the right things to insert into that email. So there's it's important that you have prompts that will process the transcript properly to structure the information, and that there is a review cycle. There's a human review, human in the loop, that takes the drafted emails that has any kind of insertion information like that and checks it before it goes out. So this isn't really appropriate for like mass emailing, but if you're doing follow-up for clients that have had a strategy call and are ready to move forward, this can be a really effective way to capture that without having to go and write everything manually or refer back to your notes manually to fill in emails. And those locked facts are going to be sourced out of the CRM because they've been captured in your structured fields and are captured well. So AI is not generating any of this. This is stuff that's already controlled in your system. Okay. So these are the types of outreach that we would recommend are good fit for AI. So follow-up email, so drafting that next message. So again, not automated email, not like doing mass emails out, but just like if there's a trigger that says, hey, it's been 3 days from the last contact with the client. The follow-up email can pull from, well, what was the last conversation that you had with them, and what were the follow-up actions that came out of that? Instead of being a generic, hey, we sent you a document request, can you make sure that you send us the documents? What are the specifics? Admin activities. So this is where it can make informed decisions about like where in the CRM situation are you? Like your team can go in and say, hey, what's outstanding for this client? And get some information there. So you can get a summary of the current state of a file. If you've got client touch points, proven campaigns, this can also to help to, generate the right kind of content that's going to matter to people. So this gets more into the marketing side. How do you go research what the current trends are that people are interested in? Looking for frequently asked questions in forums and things where, buyers are asking questions. Go mine that with AI and get information there and then add it into your newsletters. Now you've got relevant, timely content that people are, in real time asking questions about. Your reporting, again, this is something that you can look at. If it was like an operating system level for your business. So where are the places that are prioritized and finding those. And then next step visibility. So similar to the follow-up, but this is more of an internal perspective. So in terms of like, how do you get started with all of this? It's really starting with the foundation. Get those standardized workflows, make sure you're capturing clean data into your CRM. I know you're all busy and it's hard to do that, but as best as you can, try to keep up with that because that's the foundation that's going to allow you to automate well and have trust in your system that you can send out these automated emails without them pulling in the wrong data. And then ultimately adding AI on top of that just allows you to go even faster. All right, thanks, thanks, Marcy. So with everything that talked about today, if this is something that you would like to find out more about, feel free to scan the QR code there. This is our, we have a mortgage broker page that talks about how we can help. And happy to have a conversation. We've got 15-minute meetings to help you do a quick assessment call and see if there's a good fit for how we can help. So if you're interested, feel free to book a call at the QR code there.